and we are starting our PACT parent community meeting. And today we just wanted to do a little bit of updating on some things that are going to be going on this year at PACT, specifically some changes that are things that are different than they might have been in the past, particularly for those who have been here for a while. As you can imagine, there are lots of new guidelines and regulations coming down from the state and from the county and from the districts. So we are working on making our changes as quickly as possible and making sure that we're in compliance with all of the things to keep our school up and running and to keep you guys all legitimately schooling from home. I'm going to talk for another minute about nothing because lots of people are joining. All right, here we go. Ding, ding.
Do you want to start like at 1:05 and we give people like 2 more minutes to kind of hop in?
Yeah, I think we're going to do that. We've had lots of bouncing in here. I've never done the doorbell entry, so I'm getting all the doorbell rings. It's almost like having a party, but not quite as exciting. But also not quite as much cleaning up of my house, which is nice. There's no one
started. Yeah, we're going to get started in about 1 more minute. We're letting everyone kind of hop in.
I'm sure as soon as we start again, there will be another group that arrives, but that's okay. Margaret, if you can't hear, then yeah, you should reconnect. Well, then you probably can't hear. He's saying that either, so that's not helpful.
I'll respond in the chat for you.
Okay, thanks. Or check her volume or thank you. It's all the little details. We still don't have internet over here at New PACT, so I'm hoping that I'm going to stay on. I'm having trouble with the hotspot. I put it on my phone. So that should be a little bit, it should be reliable enough to get us through today. Welcome to new building chaos. Very soon, very soon. All right, it's 1:05, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we will adjust as needed. All right. So first of all, just thank you for joining us. We know this is the year of things that change. And so we appreciate in advance your flexibility and your grace and patience as we navigate all of the fun new things that are going on. So I just wanted to start off by taking a look at the PACT mission. And at PACT, we really strongly believe that our mission and our job is to provide opportunities for children to receive quality education in partnership with you, the parents at home, the home community, and that our job is to assist and support you in your journey to become lifelong learners with your kids, all of you as a family, and to do this learning from home thing. There we go. So the purpose of today, as I mentioned, is to kind of review some of the new expectations. So due to relatively recent legislation in response to the COVID-19 situation, there are some new requirements and some shifting requirements that are hopping into our lives, and we're adjusting accordingly. Some of these replace things that were already in place for us, and some of them come alongside of things that were already in place for us. And there's just kind of a basic statement at the beginning. There are many, many kinds of schools. There are site-based schools. There are independent study schools. There are independent study schools that are part of site-based schools. And that is actually what PACT is. We're an independent study program. That's legally what we call homeschooling in California when you're through a charter school is independent study. And because we're inside of Natomas Charter School, we're actually part of a site-based program. According to the state of California and all of our charter documentation, PACT is not its own school. PACT is one program inside of Natomas Charter School. And when we report data like attendance and assessment data, it all goes together, lumped into one big box. And our data gets mixed in with all of the other Natomas Charter School campuses. The reason that that's important is because as legislation is passed, sometimes things apply to us because we are part of Natomas Charter School. That might not apply to some of the other homeschooling programs in the area, because they are not part of a site-based program. And sometimes we get the benefits of being part of a much bigger site-based program school. So sometimes that helps us, and sometimes it creates a little bit of extra legislation or requirement for us. The good news is that most of the stuff that we're going to talk about today is not a really big shift. They're just small shifts. And we just want to talk through them to make sure you know what you're signing up for at the very beginning. So we're going to focus on what will be different. And some of these will be legislative things, and some of them will be health and safety policy things. So first of all, one of the things that will be different, masks. All visitors to the PACT campus who are ages 2 and up must wear a mask when on site. That is a requirement of the health departments, and we are adhering to that. We do have some disposable masks that are available. And really where the clarifying things are coming out here is as we're adapting and getting new information, information is coming out on which masks are okay and which ones aren't. And so one of the ones that we're seeing pop up a lot are these masks with the little venting knobs on the front that allow the air to vent out of the front of the mask. And those are not approved for use in public spaces because they actually release respiratory droplets into the air, just like you weren't wearing a mask. And that's the problem here. They're fine for keeping dust and pollen out of your system, but not so good for keeping virus protected from other people. So we're going to ask that when you wear a mask to campus that it not have one of those little venting holes. I'm sure there will be lots of updates for which face coverings are appropriate and which aren't, because in the health department, we're seeing shifting and recommendations change pretty much weekly, sometimes daily. So we'll just keep you informed and in the know on what's okay. And then if you ever come to campus and there's one that has become not appropriate anymore, we will let you know and we will make one of our disposable ones available to you. In addition, just knowing, I wanted to clarify that you'll hear some things about masks being optional for K-2 students. And that piece of information is really designed for when schools are back in a hybrid and on-site model, for when they're in a classroom all day. When you were just dropping by campus to pick up or sign paperwork at PACT, that is more like going to the grocery store, where the public health guideline says people age 2 and up need to have that mask on. So we are going to ask that you wear that when you come to our campus and are walking through the building. Of course, if you have any specific to you situations, you'll want to reach out to your advisor, who will contact me, and we can work on making whatever we need to do a plan for you and your specific situation. All right, so that's masks. Mask fun. Okay, next thing, what will be different about advising meetings? So advising meetings, many of you will notice they're a little bit more frequent. Previously, in previous years, the default has been every 3 weeks for families, and we have shortened that up to every 2 weeks. The big reason for that is this recent legislation, which is requiring us to check in more frequently with families. This is one of those situations where they're requiring weekly check-ins with site-based programs. So actually our every other week thing is a little bit of some wiggle room and a little bit of a gift for us. So rather than checking in weekly, we get to check in every other week. But it's really important that you make those check-ins, because the oversight people in all of the school things, the auditors, the State Board of Education, all of the people who care about these things are much more insistent that we check in with you frequently when we're in a distant learning model. And so we need to make sure that those are happening. We're in advising meetings. Let's see. Advising meetings this year are going to be virtual by default. So what that means is that we have never before been able to do virtual meetings. We always had to have you come in and be in person. But this year by default, all of your meetings are virtual. However, please know that if you don't have reliable video internet, or something comes up where that's not working and you need to meet with your advisor, that you can arrange with them in advance to hold that meeting in person in a large space on our site. But just be aware that that default is virtual, and unless you've arranged otherwise, that's how your advisor is expecting to see you. And then the last little dot here, the star, says that paperwork should be submitted in advance as much as possible. So especially because these meetings are virtual, normally you would walk your LRF and your work samples in and hand them to your advisor. But because those meetings are virtual, that's not possible. And since the purpose of that advising meeting is to check in on how you are doing, your advisor needs access to that information in advance so that they have something to review with you. So we're asking that you either drop it off. We have a little drop box sitting in the front office where you can come just drop your paperwork any day before your meeting. Or you are more than welcome to take photos or scans and email those to your advisor so that they have that information in advance. This is really just to help maximize the time in your advising meeting so that the advisor can focus on you and your children and doesn't have to worry about trying to hold this paper up, figure out what's going on, and they can really do that work in advance and use your limited time on that video conference to really build connections with your child and help you get through the work of homeschooling. All right, next, so LRF documentation. That LRF form, I'm sure if you've been here for any time at all, you know how very, very important your LRF documentation is. LRFs are basically how attendance is taken in independent study homeschool programming. And so turning that in is how we mark your child present for school. And if we don't get that paperwork, then they are marked absent, usually for weeks at a time, because that LRF is covering up to 2 weeks right now. And that creates attendance problems. We don't want truancy issues for you and your family. It becomes really, really important, again, to turn all this in on time. So there's a couple of changes this year for LRFs. And one of those is that previously you were able to just keep a list of all of the things you did for the whole learning period, which could have been up to 3 weeks last year. This year, again, we're down to those 2 weeks. And then also there's been an added requirement that all families who are working from home, which is all of us right now, keep a daily work log. So what that means for our PACT families is that instead of keeping on your LRF form one big list of all the things you did for the week, we need you to break it down by day. So we need you to write down what you did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Your advisor has lots of graphic organizers, and I might have put them in here, maybe not. I did. Let's look at them. So this is a picture of the form. It looks very, very similar. The difference is that that big gray box used to be where you could write all of the things you did for the whole learning period. And now we've just written across it that you need to attach a daily or and weekly assignment log. And that might look as simple as this. We just need you to keep track of what you did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Some people like to break it down by subject area, like this slide has it. But you're also welcome to not break it down by subject area or even to just do one column for the day, which is how this third one is. We just need to document for our auditors and for the Board of Education that you are doing school every day and not just in an entire learning period. So those are going to be in, you got samples of these when you picked up your startup packets. Your advisors have examples of these, but you're also welcome to use anything that works for you. Many of our families already use a planner, like a teacher lesson plan. You can use that and make copies. I'm a spreadsheet person, so I have a spreadsheet with a tab for each week, and I keep track of it that way. And we have several spreadsheet templates. If you're interested, we're happy to share. Whatever works for you, we just want to make sure that we are documenting on a daily basis so that you're getting credit for all that learning. All right. I think that was all the things here. We already talked about submitting in advance. And then there's just a note on here that the state has also legislated that there be a daily number of instructional minutes for all students in the state. And so that has never been a requirement for homeschooling before. We've always just done, you're going to cover approximately like 25 hours a week for 5th through 8th graders. But we're having to actually use those daily logs to show that you're doing a minimum number of instructional minutes. And I believe that's what's on the next slide. Yep. So it's not a big difference from what we've been doing forever, but kindergartners are being expected to do 180 minutes. Grades 1 through 3 is 230 minutes, and 4 through 8 is 240 minutes. And this actually, just to give you a small snapshot into the thinking here, This has always been required for site-based schools that are not in charter schools where they had daily instructional minutes. And this legislation was passed to actually reduce the number of minutes since distance learning just takes more time and energy. But by reducing it and lumping us all in, we now fall under this requirement. So what this means is that basically you just want to be writing down and doing school for kindergartners about 3 hours a day, and honestly, for our 1st through 8th graders, aim for 4 hours, and you're going to be covered for everybody. The advisor is the person whose job it is to determine if the work that you've written down meets that daily minute requirement, the instructional minutes. And so if your advisor is saying, hey, I need you to write a little bit more down in one of these columns, that's to protect you and your attendance and the auditing so that you are all in compliance with everything and protected in your schooling. So run with it, take their advice, and remember that everything counts. So you can write down your PE and your music and your art and your when you do things together as a family and cooking and reading books together. So you're doing a lot more than you're writing down most of the time. We're just going to get really good this year at writing things down. All right, I'm going to skip ahead because we're go past these logs. Oopsie, there I saw a lesson plan book and a spreadsheet. Okay, and then one of the other requirements that was put in place for distance learning is the opportunity for students to engage on daily live interaction. Oh, I see a good question here that I want to address before I move on. The question is, do we need to write how many minutes we spent doing each activity when we write it in the planner? No, you don't. Your job is just to write as much down that you did as possible. The advisor is going to sign off that it met or did not meet the daily minutes. And that's all we're required to do. We do not want to get into the tracking of we spent 10 minutes doing this and 10 minutes doing this and 40 minutes doing that. You don't need to put that much energy into it. Okay, so moving on. Daily life interaction.
Another question, Mrs. Carter, about do virtual workshops count towards total minutes? Like, yes, should they write down virtual workshops?
Yep, you should be writing down your workshops. And again, if you're breaking it up by subject area, you can put it where it fits best, or you can, I keep a box at the bottom of my spreadsheet that just says workshops, and I drop all those in there. Yeah, definitely. Everything you're doing. We write down everything, and your chances are you're doing way more than you need to be anyway. You guys are awesome. You're always doing great things. Okay, so daily life interaction. We are required at this point during distance learning to provide opportunities for students to interact live with staff members and peers. And so what you're going to see in order for this to happen, this again was designed for a classroom-based model where a teacher would have a short login at the beginning of the day to say, good morning, how are you? We're all going to be awesome. And then we would move on with our day. We got lumped in with this requirement because people don't think about, well, in homeschool, that doesn't make sense. So it's okay, we have a plan. What we're going to do is starting next week when workshops begin, there will be a 15, I believe we set it for 15 or 20 minutes, daily live check-in opportunity. And that will get sent out to everyone in the weekly email next week. And basically what we're going to do is the staff will rotate through. It'll be one Google Meet login like this. And if your kid wants to log in and check in and say hi to peers and to teachers, they may do so. And if you choose not to do that, you do not have to. We're just going to offer that opportunity. Your workshops very often serve that purpose. It's just that in order to meet the requirement of it being daily, our workshops meet weekly. So we're just going to create that extra little space. And the teachers who do those sessions are going to choose what that looks like. So it might be reading a story or doing some stretches or a mindfulness activity, something that students can all just log in and do as a community. We're really actually hoping to kind of do a little bit of community building and come up with some fun ideas, share some interests and areas of interest for our staff and our students, and allow them to connect in quick ways. So just be looking for that and be aware of that opportunity. In addition to that formalized daily interaction, all of your workshops are your big chance for your kids to connect with the community. And we're going to talk about workshops in just a second, but just really make every effort possible for them to log in when they do have a workshop scheduled, because that's how our teachers and our students are going to maintain that community. And also make sure that you're attending those advising meetings, because that's how your advisor is going to keep tabs on you and how you're doing and how your kid is doing. All right. So re-engagement. Another big word that you're going to hear from the state is the term re-engagement strategies. So what the heck does that mean? Well, what that means is we don't want students to go missing. So there is a plan and a series of steps that we're required to follow when families are not meeting the requirements of the distance learning model. So what that basically means is that you need to be keeping track of what you, okay, wait, stop. Gathering my words. What it means is that it's really important for you to be going to those advising meetings, turning in your LRF paperwork, and engaging in connection in some way regularly. If we stop hearing from you, then we are required to follow through with this re-engagement process, which means holding meetings and helping you to plan for success. And there is a little bit of a requirement that when you stop showing up, if you disappear, that we can't keep you enrolled in homeschooling, that we have to recommend that you go back to a traditional school where you have the option to go to a site. I don't foresee this being a big problem because we're already very good at advising meetings and LRF paperwork. However, just be very, very aware. And if you hear that re-engagement phrase floating about in the world, that's just the plan that exists so that if families go missing from our program, we have to track you down and find you. It's our responsibility to make sure that you are engaged in learning and in our program. Yes, I think that's all those things. Okay, then just some little details. Time on campus. Usually one of our favorite things is that we have families who get to hang out in the hallways, get to know each other, support each other around here on campus. We have this beautiful new facility that many of you got to walk through briefly last week when you picked things up. But unfortunately, we're just not going to be able to spend a lot of time on campus this year. So at least for now, at least for the first semester. So right now, only essential people for scheduled appointments are permitted on campus. That means if you have a meeting that's been scheduled, you are welcome to come, but you need to limit it to the student and the parent who are involved. You shouldn't be bringing extra people with you. And that if your child is here for something like an assessment or a meeting or some requested reason, that our family members are not going to be able to wait in the building. You'll be asked to wait either in your car or to go home and come back and pick your kid up. Because we're just asked to limit the number of people on the campus as much as possible to allow for our physical distancing and for our health and safety standards. So we're asking student only or student and one adult for advising meetings. Obviously, if you have more than one child, you need to bring the children and the adult. You're a household. And then no extra students or family members, so siblings, are allowed to wait in the common areas. Our front office is open Monday through Thursday. Friday, we are closed for deep cleaning on this campus, but you can arrange by appointment to meet someone over here on Fridays. And there's always somebody in the front office. So if you have a big emergency, you need to drop paperwork off, you certainly can do that. We just want to make sure that we're limiting who's walking through the door and to try to keep this as simple as possible for everybody. And then there's just a reminder in here also that if you do come to campus, you do need to follow all the public health guidelines. So that's staying 6 feet and more apart and wearing your mask that covers your nose and your mouth while you are in the building. All right, and then just know that we're here to support you. We're all figuring this out as we go. I think every day I wake up and try to figure out what changed overnight. There are a lot of unknowns. We have a lot of challenges facing us. There are many, many things that we don't have answers to, and we're just working very hard on making sure that we can help you the best way we can. We want you to know that our advisors are all here working for you and making sure that there are connections. We have some additional challenges in that, as you may have heard at the beginning, we still have no internet and no phones in our building right now, our brand new building. They're telling us any day, but the best way to get a hold of someone right now is email, and many of your advisors have given you Google Voice numbers so that they can be reached wherever they happen to be working. We have sent many of them home and to other campuses to work where they have connectivity because it's really hard to do a video conference if you don't have internet. So just know that they're not necessarily in this building, but they are available to you, and usually somebody is in this building who can find them if you need us. And then just knowing that, of course, we want you to be really happy with your choice. And we know that some of these new policies are maybe not what you signed up for. So if you're concerned that this isn't going to work for your family, just let your advisor or myself know, and we can have a conversation about what your options are. But if you do choose to stay, we're here to help you get through all of the crazy hoops from this year and make sure your paperwork's all good and that you're in compliance and that your kids are spending some good time learning no matter where they're learning from and no matter what opportunities they have. All right, so that's all my bit. I'm gonna open it up for some questions, and we're thinking that the easiest way to do this would be if you can put your question in the chat. Dr. Wood's gonna read them to me and then I can answer, and that'll save us time from turning on and off microphones as we go. If you don't have chat, then you can turn on and we'll see what we can do. How we do it.
I always forget to unmute myself. How will assessment look for kindergartners?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Let me just address assessment in general. iReady assessment is the tool that we're using, and iReady is going to be required for all students twice this year. This is another one of those things that because we closed down in the spring before assessment happened, the state is adamant that we assess twice just to keep track of where students are. So all of our 2nd through 8th graders are being asked to take the iReady math and reading assessment in the next few weeks. Now, of course, because this is how this year is, all of our iReady logins are chaos. So some of you have them and some of you don't. In the next week, you should have a login to log in and get those done. For our kindergarten and 1st graders, you may take the assessment at the beginning of the year now. If you're going to use iReady as your curriculum, then it will force you to take the assessment before you start using the lessons. So just be aware of that. But if you're not going to use iReady as your curriculum and you want to stall your assessment, we are going to give our kindergarten and 1st graders through the end of the 1st quarter. So basically you can wait till mid-September, end of September to do that. We want to let them settle a little bit. The good news is the iReady assessment is very kid-friendly and it talks to them and does fun, little cartoon characters. So it's pretty easy to follow along. I saw the question pop up, do we do this from home? Yes, we are not set up, as you heard, even if we wanted to bring you in, we can't. There's no internet, you can't access it here. So iReady assessments are done at home. You can log in and do those once you get your iReady login from your advisor at pretty much any time. I believe that they're set so that the assessments only run during school hours. So if you try to do it in the evening, it might not open. It might say there's no assessment. That's because usually in a usual year, we want the kids doing it when they're in the classroom and not when they're at home. But obviously that's not going to work. Just be aware that if you do it outside of business hours, you might not see that assessment. You might need to wait till a Monday through Friday.
Next question, is there anything specific to Project X?
So the only thing specific to Project X is that right now everything is still virtual. Should Natomas Charter School site-based programs go to a hybrid model where they're bringing students on campus 2 days a week, then Project X would do the same. So then we would open the campus to the Project X students and they would come here for their instruction. Project X students should also be taking iReady across this week. We do know there's a couple of students, especially the new to PACT students, who are working on getting their logins. Your advisors are working feverishly on it. We met this morning. And this week we're doing some check-in things. So make sure, I know that tomorrow you have a meeting scheduled with advising groups, and then on Thursday, a whole group meeting for Project X. So make sure you're meeting those, and then we'll be giving Project X students their course schedules once we've finished assessments.
The next question we got was about masks with breathing valves. So Sarah, I'll find that. I can't remember which guidance it's in. It's Sacramento County or California Department of Public Health. But the idea, as Mrs. Carter was saying, is it's the ones that have the little plastic valves on the side that are roughly the size of a quarter. And when you look at them, like on Amazon, they talk about how air can come out. They're primarily used for filtering the air, like when you're mowing the lawn and that sort of stuff. So that's why they're not good for COVID-19, because that respiratory droplets comes out in the air that you breathe. Nicole asked, do we provide 4 pieces of work evidence per LRF or per week?
Oh, per LRF. So yes, 4 work samples per meeting. So that's going to be every 2 weeks. But remember that if you're new to this, you're going to want to bring more work and let your advisor help you choose what work samples you're putting into the packet so that they meet the requirements of the paperwork that we need to turn in.
And then A follow-up question about Project X. Do Project X parents need to track their daily work on LRF?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, of course. No, your advisors do that. And that's the benefit of Project X, is that they're acting as the teacher of record for assigning the curriculum. And so all you need to do is show up to those advising appointments and make sure your kid is doing the work. That's all you need to do in Project X.
All right, that's all the questions we have for now.
Give everybody a minute of think time. I know this is the weirdest way to do meetings. I know you're all there, but. All right. As always, if you have, oh, this is a good one. I saw this question. So when will technology be issued? If you, I don't actually know 100% the answer to that, but I know part of the answer to that. If you requested technology, our shipment of Chromebooks, the first group went out last week if you were in the first round, and we got those out to most people who had filled out the form that they needed them right away. If you said you could wait until the rest of them came in, or if you didn't fill out the form, the rest of those should be ready to go in the next 2 weeks or so, 2 to 3 weeks. They were scheduled to arrive, and I have not confirmed if they've arrived or not, but then they have to be barcoded and put into the system so we can check them out and send them to you. And the way that will work is that we'll let the advisors know, and they'll send you an email that just says, hey, your device is ready. We'll be on campus during these hours. You can come by and pick it up. And you can drive by just like we did for paperwork, and you either just come into the front office and we'll give it to you, or you can arrange with your advisor to meet you in the parking lot in your car.
And they should be, one little follow-up I can add is they were supposed to be here on Thursday, but there's a wildfire somewhere that stopped them in transit. So the Chromebooks didn't burn up. That was our number one question. But now we just need them to get here. All right.
This is the theme of our year. We're doing the same thing. None of the advisors have desks in their office yet because of the same kinds of transportation issues. It's all right. We're figuring it all out. We promise we'll get it to you. Updates on access to library materials. Yes, your advisor has a login and a password for you to access Destiny, which is the name of the library management system. So contact your advisor to get that username and password. And from there, you can search what books are in our library and ask your advisor to pull them for you. And then again, you can either drop by and pick them up or have your advisor meet you in the parking lot at your car to get those. Just be aware that with the library materials, there are occasionally things that it says we have that are missing. So this is going to be a big year of cleaning out the library and fixing all of those problems. What a good opportunity. I saw another one go by, but I missed it.
Sorry, any changes to the way parent hours will work this year?
So we're working on parent hours. We do want to acknowledge that obviously you can't come volunteer at an event or in a workshop, but we also want to recognize that some of our families are doing quite a bit of work from home to help support our program. So I did reset the parent hour logging form, and as parents are working, we're gonna have you go ahead and put those into that form and the spreadsheet and track them. However, this is gonna just be a year of flexibility, right? There's gonna, usually we require that those get done by first semester, half of them, in order to register for your second, or to get priority in your second semester workshop. There's a lot more flexibility on that. There is a place where there is a spreadsheet linked in the weekly updates to volunteer opportunities, but that has not been updated since we closed March 12th. I have the teachers this week working on updating their needs. So needs might look a little different this year. It might look like I need to help bagging supplies so that students can come pick things up that they need for workshops. So we might need people to just do that from home, or cutting things out, or maybe even just supporting a new family who needs a buddy. We might be asking people, hey, are you willing to be a mentor to this family who's got kids your kid's age? Those kinds of support things. I'm sure we will come up with lots of volunteer opportunity things. We just don't know what they are yet because we don't know what we're facing yet. I saw something about encouragement. I love to give encouragement. Let's see what that could be about.
Any general encouragement to new people who feel like we don't know what we're doing yet? Our advisor is a big help, and we're working hard just looking for overall encouragement prior to having curriculum. It feels hard to grade or assess. I want to say one thing. You're all doing an awesome job. It's 2020. if your children are safe, your house is stable, and you're getting the kids learning about some stuff, you're doing an excellent job. Our mantra internally at Natomas Charter School is there is no perfection this year. There's only intentionality. And that's, I would say, for all of you as parents, the same thing applies. There's no perfection. There's only intentionality. But I know Mrs. Carter has years and years of personal and professional homeschooling experience that might have more to add to that.
It really just is about finding your tribe and finding people that you can talk to. And this is every year, not just this year. When you're new to homeschooling, it definitely feels rocky. I highly encourage you that if you haven't, join the Facebook group Court for our families. There's a lot of support there. And ask for help. Reach out and put a post on there that says, hey, we're a new family. My kid's in 3rd grade. Anybody else out there? I usually, when we used to do in-person orientations, would open with one of my very favorite quotes about homeschooling that helped me a lot when we started with our kids. And that was, I may not always homeschool the right way, but I know it was the right choice for my kid. And that's all we're ever going to ask of you guys, is that it's the right thing. It's your intentionality. It's knowing that learning is happening all over the place. So give yourself permission to go slow. You're actually doing more than you think you are. It's kind of a running joke at my house right now that our learning looks a lot like building blanket forts and reading books together, but that's a lot of learning. And we're doing a lot of watching documentaries and hiding from the heat. So be creative. If you need ideas, there are many resources we can help hook you up with. And if you are like me and you want books and podcasts and websites to go visit, let me or your advisor know, and we'll be happy to share it. There is a lot of information on our curriculum website, which is also linked to your weekly updates. I dropped a whole bunch of stuff in there in the last few weeks about free resources for homeschoolers, where you can go visit museums, where you can go do online field trips, how to use PBS Kid as your friend, anything to just kind of keep you moving forward. And then just give yourself a lot of grace. This is hard in a normal year, and you picked pandemic year. So we're here. We promise to be your cheerleaders and your encouragers. And that's really what we're about, is that community. You're welcome. Thank you.
I also put the link to the Court group in the chat, and then that way people want to join that they can.
Yep. And all you need to do is when you click that is a private group. So you can only be in that group if you have a student at PACT. And we're going through and pushing out the little birdies who have flown our coop and gone on to high school right now. But it's really encouraging in there. It will prompt you and ask you your student's name. And that's just so that I can verify that you actually go with somebody who goes to school here. We put lots of crazy things. And in the next couple of weeks, look for some fun things. Our leadership students are going to start doing read alouds for our picture books. We're going to have family challenges. So we're a little slower to ramp up in homeschool land, which is totally fine. But over the next couple of weeks, you'll start to see the workshops, the social media things, the leadership group jumping in, and lots of fun activities.
All right. So that's the last question we have.
I think that's it.
Well, thank you all for joining us today. And Mrs. Carter, I'll let you close out.
All right. We just want to close out and say we really appreciate you being part of our community. We will figure this out together. Feel free to reach out to your advisor or to me or to the group. And we look forward to figuring out awesome things with you this year. All right. We'll see ya.